Hello book nerdy friends, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me. Today this video is going to be a little wrap up for July 2020. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe down below and let's get on with the vid. So I read 15 things in July, 14 books and one short story. This is definitely the most I have ever read in a single month in my entire life. So, big news. I will try to be quick, and then if anybody has any interest in hearing a bit more about any of the books that I touch on, please do let me know. 7 of the books in question I've already talked about in the Reading Rush wrap-up, so when we get to those I'll just point you towards that video and you can go check that out to hear a bit more about them. So without further ado, starting off, the first thing I read in July was a short novella kind of thing called Awkward by a girl called Gurpreet Kaur, and this is something that the author reached out to me on Bookstagram and asked me to have a look at, and I had a look at it. It is free on Kindle Unlimited if you would also like to have a look at it, and that's as far as I'm going with that. Next I read All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is the first of the Murderbot books, the Murderbot Diaries books. If you've already seen my Reading Rush, you'll know that I read the second one in that, so you've already heard a little bit about it. The first one I listened to on audiobook and the narrator was very good. I will remember to put his name down below in the description just to give him a shout out. And I really enjoyed it, obviously, because I have since read the second one and I plan to read the third one hopefully in August. So, after that I read a short story by Neil Gaiman that was called Other People. And meh is all I can really come up with. The central idea is that you go to hell, or when you go to hell, you are tortured until you become the torturer. And I have seen this idea done so many other times before in so many different variations, and I've seen it done better. Supernatural, the TV show, did it better than this short story. But it seems that because it was written by Neil Gaiman, everybody just wants to give it 4 and 5 stars as if he's some kind of prophet. Nothing against the guy personally, I don't see the hype, and it was 2, maybe 3 stars at push. But it was free online, so go make your own opinions, I suppose. The next book that I read was Arkel Conundrum by Sarah Ash. Now this is a 4th book in a series. The original trilogy finished back in, the last book was published in 2005, right at the very end of the year, and I read it in early 2006. So there has been a very long gap between this and those books. I got this particular book for my birthday last year. My birthday is December, so basically 6-7 months ago. Time doesn't work in 2020 because we're all in lockdown and nothing makes sense. I was a little bit concerned about starting this because I worried that maybe I have grown out of the series. I don't really do rereads, so I haven't reread the series since I was mid to late teens. So I was worried that maybe I wouldn't like it, maybe I wouldn't like the style or the prose or the characters or, whatever. Shouldn't have worried. Absolute 5-star, knock it out of the park, amazing book. Absolutely loved it. Can't wait for the next one. And just brilliant, honestly. If you like high fantasy, epic fantasy, kind of, I guess, Euro style fantasy, Yes, there are a lot of those around, but I think this one is really well done. For example, on the back, Publishers Weekly has compared it to Robert Jordan and George R.R. Martin's complex sagas. You will notice in it, that the protagonist, there's multi-perspective narration, so there's a core group of protagonists, and then there's also a bunch of secondary characters. Obviously the protagonists are slightly more well built out than secondary characters, but you don't feel like anybody's being neglected. Everybody's equally well fleshed out and written. The world building is amazing. If you get one of the first trilogy, there are maps. I know some people love maps. There are too many words for me to want to say about how great this book is and how great this series is and how great Sarah Ashe is, quite frankly, for me to fit in this video. So if you want some high fantasy and some epic fantasy by an author that not many people have read, and you want something that's a bit less mainstream, then I would say go for The Tears of Artemon by Sarah Ashe. Definitely, for sure. I will probably do a video just dedicated to this book series at some point, because it is like my favourite series ever, basically. Yeah, check it out. Next, for the Schwab read-along, I finished The Archive by Victoria Schwab. This is her YA, well, it's her name, obviously, but she uses Victoria Schwab for her YA books and then V.E. Schwab for her more adult titles. I gave The Archive 3 stars. I thought it was okay. I thought it was entertaining. I don't know, maybe the YA-ness just seemed a bit, I don't know, watered down to me. Some of it seemed really incredulous, like this 16-year-old girl can fight better than most, I don't know, MMA fighters, and she's absolutely a complete hard ass and doesn't wince at all if she gets sliced in the arm by a knife and all this sort of nonsense. I'm thinking, really? But really though? Because if she's been doing this for 4 years, since she was 12, which is apparently what happens, which also kind of didn't make sense, because at one point it's like, oh yeah, I've been doing this for 4 years, and then in another section it's like, oh, she's been doing it since she's 14, so make your mind up. Yeah, I guess. There are a lot of inconsistencies that bugged me, but I gave it a 3, it's okay. I won't be reading the second book though, so take that for, however you may see it. Next up, I read an an advanced reader copy of a book called Final Cut, which I guessed the ending in the first sort of 20 to 30%, and then I spent the next 60 to 70% of the middle just reading it to get to the final 10% to prove myself right. I was proved right, and it could have been done so much better, so that got 2. Next are the 7 Reading Rush books, so I'll just skim through these quickly, and you can go and check out the previous video if you want a bit more chat on them. So there was The Gravity of Us, gave it 4 stars. Jonathan Livingston Seagull, gave it 4 stars. Black Sunday, gave it 3. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, gave it 2 stars. In Defense of English Cooking, 4 stars. Artificial Condition, 4 stars. Reality is Not What It Seems, 4 stars. And you will also notice in that book that I started The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. This is book 2 of the Broken Earth series. I also finished this, and this is also a 5-star read from me. It's definitely a middle book. Anyone who reads fantasy series will kind of know what I mean. But I don't think that it is much detrimented by the fact that it is the middle book. There's still a lot going on, there's still a lot of development. We see new characters that we didn't see in the first book, and a couple of them are very clearly on a collision course, figuratively and probably quite literally. So that I absolutely loved. Some people are not a fan of the second person sections because the narrator is basically one of the characters inside the book, and one of the other characters is referred to as you. So you, the reader, is one of the characters, kind of, if you see what I mean. Basically, there are some sections that are all addressing you and your and so on, as opposed to he, she, I, whatever. I don't mind it. I listened to the audiobook for the first book, and the way that it was done on the audiobook, I completely forgot that it was second person. It was very immersive and really well done. So then when I came to read this one, I was like, oh yeah, I remember. It was, yeah. But I didn't find it a particularly difficult concept to get my head around. I don't think it detriments anything. I think it's quite good. And it definitely is something that you don't see everywhere. And the whole series, like the concepts and the magic and so on, is something that I haven't seen anywhere else. So I would say definitely check out Broken Earth series by N.K. Jemisin. This, yes, as I said, was 5 stars, hooray, and I'll hopefully be reading the third one very shortly. So the last thing that I read in July is another advanced reader copy. This is of We Are All the Same in the Dark. This is by Julia Heaberlin, I think is how you pronounce her name. She wrote the book BlackEyed Susans, which I've heard of but never read. This is a mystery thriller that's set in Texas over the course of, I guess, kind of the course of 10 to 15 years ultimately, but the main two sections are 5 years apart. What I found interesting about this book is that you get halfway through and then the point of view, the narrator, completely changes. So for the first half it's one character, and then for the second half it's a different character, and in between those two halves there is a gap of 5 years' time. I thought, as I say, that was quite interesting. It's not something I've seen done before, and I thought it was done really well. The ultimate bad guy, killer, I did kind of guess. I wasn't 100% sure, but I did guess it, so it got like a half star knocked off. So I've got it as 4 on Goodreads because they don't do half stars, but in my head it's kind of a 3.5 because I managed to guess the identity of the bad guy. So that will have released just at the start of August if you want to get your hands on it. If you like a mystery thriller, give it a go. It's 3.5, 4 stars, and it'll be out now. So that is my 15 things I read in July 2020. How much did you get through in July? I have noticed a lot of people saying that July is the month where they have read the most in a single month that they have ever read. And that seems to be a general theme of 2020. Lockdown is being good to readers, not so much to anybody else trying to do anything else. So how much did you get through in July? Do you have any big favourites? Do you want to hear anything else about any of the books that I only briefly touched on today? And as usual, like, subscribe, share, and I will see you next time. Have a great day, take care, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.